Hi, my name's Larry Oliver, and I've got a short little read for you from just an incredible book, an anthology of short stories and short thoughts entitled, Dave's Guide to Living the Moment, Getting to Ecstasy Through Wine, Chocolate, and Your iPod Playlist by David Romanelli. This is Tolerance for Flatulence. Inspiration. A particular effect of divine flatulence emitted by the Holy Spirit, which hisses into the ears of a few chosen by God. Voltaire. "That's okay. Go ahead and fart," said a very, very famous woman yoga teacher when I took her class many years ago. A student had flatulated quite loudly. In proper terms, you might say the student blasted one, and there was a moment of very awkward silence. Were people in the yoga class going to laugh? Were they going to be disgusted? Would it just be a loud one without an accompanying scent? Or would it cripple half the room? After 2 seconds, the teacher made it light. It made light of the situation, and everyone moved on. She handled it brilliantly. It seems to be the trend all across the yoga world. Teachers tell us it's okay to flatulate in class. In fact, until recently, I disagreed. And let's discuss that. Oh, and by the way, flatulate is a word I've made up because it sounds a bit more elegant than fart. To clarify further, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines flatulence as marked by or affected with gas generated in the intestine or stomach. Now, a recent study was conducted on flatulence in public, and it showed that 90% of Americans flatulate in public regularly. 70% flatulate publicly at least once a day, while 61.4% flatulate in public at least 3 times a day. 47.5% flatulate publicly once every hour, 31% flatulate in public 4 times an hour, 12% flatulate publicly every few minutes, 10% have never done it once in public, and finally, 3.7% have a rare condition causing a constant low-grade state of flatulence akin to the exhaust from jet fuel streaming from an airplane's engines. So let's get that out of the way. Flatulence is normal. Everyone does it. And I'll be honest with you. As a yoga teacher, I'm okay with people doing it in an emergency. But I gotta tell you, I really struggle to be tolerant when it comes to people disrupting class with what's called the SBD. The silent but deadly fart poses a problem for the yoga teacher and students. It happens to me all the time. I'm victimized. Somebody will unleash an SBD right around the area where I'm standing while teaching class. Right away, people assume it's me, as per the age-old saying, "He who smelt it, dealt it." So upon smelling an SBD, I run away from the cloud as quickly as I can, which worsens the situation in the eyes and noses of the students. Things are different in the underwater world. Dolphins know who did it. Whales can see where it's coming from. There's no need for a shark to scurry away from an SBD cloud. Why, you may ask? Duh, because you see bubbles when there's a fart underwater. And clearly, a yoga class is not underwater, and therein lies the peril. It's one thing if a twisting yoga pose causes gas to escape, and noisy flatulence isn't. I'm going to correct that. And noisy flatulence is not a big deal because we know the cloud is coming, kind of like a hurricane. There's a warning, but there's no warning for an SBD, kind of like an earthquake. Granted, this is yoga class, and yoga is all about acceptance and tolerance. So Flatulence, more than anything, has become a personal test of my level of tolerance. Any form of intolerance is ignorance, and any form of that ignorance is beyond being an act of hatred. Intolerance also deprives the hater of important experience, knowledge, wisdom, art, yes, even smells. Maybe you think intolerance doesn't apply to you. After all, you are liberal and open. Think carefully. Almost every human being is surprisingly intolerant, maybe not toward a race or religion, but toward pop culture, toward a nemesis, or most importantly, toward self. Let's use the example of my former intolerance toward country music. Now, I remember once telling a friend that I didn't like country music, and he said, "How can you write off an entire genre of music?" It was such a brilliant remark, sort of like saying, "How can you write off an entire race or people?" Country music always sounded twangy and silly to me. Having grown up in L.A., I didn't know what Alan Jackson was talking about with this Chattahoochee. Where is it and what is it? Another country song was about a guy getting a flat tire and discovering his true friend was the one who comes to change the tire in some roadside ditch. That just doesn't happen in L.A. You call roadside assistance, not a friend. So I had a fair amount of intolerance for country music. If a country song came on the radio, I changed it in a New York minute. Then I met a few college friends who wouldn't just listen to country songs. They'd ponder the stories in the songs, some of which would bring tears to their eyes. Now, that was a passion, and it caught my attention. The friends, one of whom was a guy named Dierks Bentley, this was years before he became a country music star, had me listen to a song called State Fair by Doug Supernaw. I recall sitting up in his dorm room as he talked me through the story of the song. Now, my favorite line goes, "Was mid-October and the autumn breeze shook the colors out of the trees. Time was passing, but who were we to care? We were headed for the state fair." The song featured a simple drive to the state fair. But there's something to be said for a simple drive. Who doesn't love a beautiful road trip with an autumn breeze and gorgeously colored trees ready to drop their leaves? Country music celebrates these sweet little moments. So I began to understand what people like about country music, the passion for the story, the setting, the characters, and the melody. Yet there still are so many people who, when you ask their music preferences, will respond, "Well, I like everything but country." A cultural intolerance of country music is very symbolic. As we get busier and more stimulated, we tend to lose touch with the little things that, at the time, might seem mundane, but somehow later in life stand tall in our memories. Such things are celebrated in Alan Jackson's song, Drive, when he sings of a young boy's hands on the wheel, steering the old wood boat with Daddy on the lake, or Kenny Chesney's song, Summertime, when he sings about two bare feet on the dashboard, as he cruises down the highway with cheap shades and a tattoo and a Yoo-hoo bottle on the floorboard. To ignore country music is to ignore a celebration of the wonderful, proud, quirky, everyday moments that happen even if you're not prepared for them to happen, as if life ceases to exist when you're not in the mood. So there's something important to gain from building tolerance for country music. For that matter, there's something to be gained from building tolerance for your nemesis, for yourself, for anyone and anything. But what can be gained from building tolerance for flatulence? After all, that was our goal here. I want to tell you a story about flatulating on airplanes. And everybody remembers the good old days of flying. You know, when you'd get dressed up, all excited to board a plane. Nowadays, flying requires every ounce of your inner yogi to refrain from going insane. I recently took an early morning flight where everyone was on edge. In front of me sat a grumpy and tired woman. I reached into the magazine holder behind her seat and jerked it just slightly. She turned and gave me the look of death. Now, it was 6:30 a.m. I'd woken up just like she had at 4 a.m., and I was not overjoyous to sit in a dirty plane with boogers stuck to the seatbelt clip and grime on every other page of my in-flight magazine. But I am a yoga teacher, and I would not say anything to this angry lady. When we took off, the angry lady in front reclined and was basically lying on my lap as I munched on the in-flight snacks. Given the close quarters, I was basically crunching nuts in her ear. Again, she turned around and glared at me. What the hell, I thought. I wanted to give an earful to this lady who was really starting to make me mad. She doesn't want me to take a magazine. I can't chew my snacks. Am I breathing too loud? I tried to doze off, but it seems like whenever you take a nap on a plane, you're awakened by a cloud of flatulence permeating the air. A side note on airplane flatulence. When the guy next to you polishes off a tuna fish sandwich he picked up at the airport and orders a spicy tomato drink, you might as well turn to him and say, "Look, buddy, I know you're going to fart, so let's not pretend we don't know where it's coming from once it happens." So I sat there, fuming, and thinking that everyone else flatulates on airplanes, and everyone else flatulates in yoga class. Why do I always need to be Mr. Nice Guy and save mine for private time? Just then, the annoying lady's seat broke, and she reclined even further into my lap. Well, I tapped her on the shoulder, asking if she would please move up a tad. She turned to me and said, "Touch me again and I'll call the steward." And that was it. Having enjoyed a few beers the previous night and still polishing off my airline nuts, I had what some call the dirty elves stirring up a potent potion in my lowers. I'd never before thought of using flatulence as a matter of self-defense, but I had been provoked, so I began my countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7. I did consider what the yogi gurus would think of my flatulating on this woman. Would I be showing disregard or ahimsa, which means not causing harm to others? Nah, after all, flatulence isn't really violent, and it's made naturally by my body. 6, 5, 4, 3... I had a random thought of the innocent victims in harm's way when a bomb is dropped on an enemy target, as well as the impact zone being worse than anticipated. Was this really the right thing to do? 2, 1, 0. Release. The awkward 2 seconds passed, and I closed my eyes like Han Solo did in Star Wars, when he pushed the button and the Millennium Falcon prepared to accelerate to light speed, as if something powerful was about to kick in. You know it's bad when you can smell your own flatulence. At that very instance, I could smell my own, and even I wanted to duck. And this lady was lying literally 18 inches from the payload bay. She was as close as I was to ground zero. Impact! The angry lady jerked her seat to the upright position and turned to me with a look of horror that you might see in the eyes of one running from a tornado. The people all around leaned at the steepest possible angle away from me, as if they were cornfields blasted in a crop circle formation. Unsure of what caused the sudden commotion, the stewardess ran over to our section to see if someone was having a heart attack. Unfortunately, she ran right into the blast zone and literally buckled to her knees. It was a sight to see and a scent for all ages, albeit the dark ages. My fellow passengers were barely clinging to consciousness in the invisible sensory thunderstorm that was my flatulence. But after a minute or so, the scent subsided. But for the rest of the flight, the angry lady in front of me kept her seat in the upright position, damn straight. My plan was triumphant, and the moment was a turning point in my tolerance for flatulence. I'm a firm believer that if you dish it, you've got to be able to take it. So I've changed my intolerant ways toward flatulence. Here's the way I now see it. One's physical reaction to a pungent fart is very similar to one's reaction upon encountering a type of music or a nemesis or an entire race for whom one has no tolerance. There's a physical shutting down. That's as confused sense of protection against the unknown. Next time you're blasted with a pungent fart, treat it like a challenging yoga pose. Breathe, relax, surrender, and train yourself to be more accepting when you'd otherwise shut down. Just wait 1 second while my computer wakes back up. There we go. Sorry about that. A Zen proverb says, "Nothing on earth, not even the worst fart, can overcome an absolutely non-resistant person." Relaxing amid a harsh smell is a way of building tolerance for life's more significant challenges. Those significant challenges are the ones that cause all the problems. When you fail to tolerate a person, it's not that big a deal. Like when you do 1 rep of the bench press at the gym. But when you frequently fail to tolerate lots of persons, you trigger the same mental reflex that fails to tolerate an entire race or religion or genre. You build your muscle for intolerance in the same way you build your muscles by doing 50 reps of the bench press day after day. Continued intolerance can grow into a dangerous disease of perspective. To remain beautifully tolerant, check how you respond to the silliest struggles, whether they be a bit of flatulence, an annoying person, or country music. Even the most accepting person will not like everything she encounters. But the rarest form of human strength is the ability to face new experiences, challenges, and adversity, yet maintain an open heart, an open mind, and dare I say, an open nose. Thanks. Again, that was from Dave's Guide to Living the Moment.